Have you ever stopped to think why the most focused, magnetic, and respected men seem to carry a strength that no one can explain? What if I told you that this strength doesn't come from fame, money, or genetics, but rather from a secret that most prefer to ignore? More than 90 days of semen retention doesn't just make you different, it puts you on a level that many would call divine. Yes, that's right. Because when you stop wasting your most sacred energy, you begin to access parts of your being that have been dormant for years. Society doesn't want you to find this out. It wants you to remain addicted, scattered, weak, believing that immediate pleasure is freedom. But what if everything you're missing, clarity, purpose, respect, decision-making power, natural magnetism, is hidden in the very thing you've been giving away for free? This practice is not a fad, nor an esoteric ritual. It's an ancient code of power that, when respected, completely transforms the body, mind, and soul. In this video, you'll learn why holding your energy for more than 90 days isn't just discipline, it's spiritual initiation. Get ready to dive into a truth that will disturb you, confront you, and, if you have the courage, set you free. There are people who spend their entire lives searching for this so-called spiritual awakening and never realize that one of the most direct gateways is in the body itself, in the way it relates to its vital energy. When a man reaches 90 days of semen retention, he experiences a shift so profound that it almost seems magical. But it's not magic, it's biology, psychology, and spirituality working together. At this point, it's no longer just about holding back the urge, but about transmuting animal force into divine presence. The body changes, yes. Testosterone stabilizes, the gaze becomes firmer and the posture more upright, but what few people talk about is the absurd mental clarity that emerges. It's like taking a dirty cloth off your eyes and finally seeing what was always in front of you. Many men report that they begin to listen to their intuition better, make wiser decisions, and cut ties that previously seemed necessary. It's as if the noise of the world becomes quieter, and the inner voice gains prominence. In practice, this translates into simple but powerful actions. A man who used to spend time watching pornography or going out every Friday to clear his mind now wakes up early to meditate, works out consistently, and focuses on his own purpose. He realizes that he is no longer looking for cheap dopamine, he is looking for evolution. It is as if he had upgraded his operating system. More stable, faster, more conscious. And the most curious thing is that, contrary to what the system preaches, he is not gaining anything extra from this. He is returning to his original state. Semen retention, at this stage, does not give you superpowers. It just clears the blocks that prevented you from accessing what was always yours. Imagine spending years with the brakes on without realizing it, and suddenly letting go of everything and flying. It's not an exaggeration, it's real. But this flight requires responsibility. Because the higher you go, the clearer it becomes what needs to be left behind on the ground. That's why many men, after these 90 days, begin to review all aspects of their lives. And that, my friend, is where the real journey begins. There are many men who are fixated on the number of days, as if semen retention were a marathon with a trophy at the end. But the real victory is not in saying, "I've been here for 30, 60, or 90 days, but in looking inside and realizing that the way you live has completely changed. Real retention begins when you stop counting and start living the lifestyle, when the choice to hold on becomes as natural as brushing your teeth. The key here is to transform discipline into an invisible habit, one that no one needs to see, but that changes everything. This means taking care of your body, mind, and spirit as part of an integrated routine. It means exchanging distractions for constructive actions. Instead of scrolling through your feed at dawn, you read, write, study, build. Books like The Power of Habit, by Charles Duhigg, or The Miracle Morning, by Hal Elrod, help to reprogram this mindset in a practical way. And there's more. This change in lifestyle is contagious. When a man lives with purpose, others feel it. His energy changes, his gaze has direction, and time is respected. He begins to influence the environment just by his posture. He's the kind of guy who walks into a place and everyone notices, not out of vanity, but because his energy speaks before he even says, "Good morning." This is semen retention in silent and powerful mode. It's not about perfection. There will be difficult days, when the mind will want to negotiate, when the body will ask for what it doesn't need. But that's when you see who is really living the lifestyle or just making an appearance on the spreadsheet. True discipline is the kind that continues when no one is watching, when there are no applause or likes, just you with yourself. And it is in this conscious solitude that true power is born. If you are just starting out with semen retention and want to learn how to practice it the right way, safely and with results, I have prepared an essential ebook for beginners. It is a direct, simple, and transformative step-by-step guide. The link is in the first pinned comment. And the more this style takes root, the more natural the choices become. What was once a struggle becomes fluidity. What was once a doubt becomes certainty. But this fluidity only comes when you understand that it is not about fighting against desire, but rather about redirecting energy towards something greater. When a man starts practicing semen retention, it's common for him to become obsessed with counting the days. I'm on day 12, now on day 25, almost 30. But this obsession can be dangerous. Because when the mind gets into this game, the ego takes over. And when the ego gets into it, it wants a medal, it wants status, it wants to prove something, and then the essence of the practice gets lost. It's not about counting, it's about living. True transformation doesn't follow a timetable. It's like the growth of a tree, invisible on the outside for the first few weeks, but the roots are growing deeper. One guy might be on day 20 and already have a profound internal shift, while another guy is on day 60 and still hasn't moved emotionally. Every body, mind, and soul has its own timetable. Forcing that timetable is like opening a flower too early. You're destroying the natural process. By the way, do you know what the greatest sign of progress is? When you forget what day it is. When the urge appears and you think, this doesn't even make sense to me anymore. That's the real turning point. And do you know what helps you achieve this? Replacing counting with rituals. Start the day with a cold shower, meditate for 10 minutes, write down 3 things you're grateful for. These are simple habits, but they reprogram your mind to live in the present with strength. And when you take your focus off of how many days are left and put it on who I'm becoming, everything changes. Anxiety goes away. Guilt dissolves. Discipline becomes lighter. The path to semen retention stops being a tiring staircase and becomes a continuous flow, like a river, steady, directed, but unhurried. The secret is not rushing, it's consistency. And as this constancy becomes a lifestyle, a new mentality begins to emerge, that there is no end, no arrival, only continuous evolution. And that mindset makes room for the next big retention key. The biggest trap that many men fall into is thinking that semen retention is a phase, a temporary challenge. It's not. When you understand the power of this practice, it becomes part of your identity, like brushing your teeth or taking a shower. It's not something you do for a while, it's something you become. Retention becomes a reflection of your self-control, your maturity, and your commitment to being the best version of yourself. And the most interesting thing is that when this happens, discipline becomes effortless. It sounds strange, but it's real. Because when retention is incorporated into a lifestyle, it doesn't require effort every day, it just flows. You wake up and know what needs to be done. You feel like it's not worth throwing your energy away. The idea of giving in to low impulses completely loses its meaning. And this doesn't happen by force, it happens by clarity. Want to see a practical example? A man who lives this lifestyle already organizes his day thinking about cultivating his energy. He works out early, eats well, avoids toxic conversations and environments, and consumes uplifting content. He doesn't do this out of obligation. He does it because he understands the cost of not doing it. Books like Meditations, by Marcus Aurelius, or The Path of the Peaceful Warrior, by Dan Millman, are true guides in this process. Of course, this doesn't mean that there won't be temptations. But the difference is that now he knows who he is. He no longer needs external proofs or rewards. Semen retention is no longer a challenge, it's a consequence of who he has become. And that's exactly what separates those who try out of vanity from those who practice out of conscience. The discipline becomes silent, but visible in the results. And these results are not just internal. When discipline becomes style, the body begins to change, the gaze gains new strength, and the presence becomes magnetic. And then comes something that no one teaches, but that everyone feels. Many people believe that by practicing semen retention, they will acquire powers, as if it were a bonus in a video game. But the truth is different. You are not adding anything to yourself, you are simply removing what was preventing you from accessing what was always yours. Self-realization is not an external achievement, but the recognition of one's own greatness that has always been stifled by addictions, distractions, and wasted energy. Think of a diamond covered in clay. It doesn't need any more shine, just cleaning. Retention acts like this internal cleaning. By eliminating self-destructive habits, a man's natural radiance begins to emerge. Confidence returns. Posture adjusts. Speech becomes firmer. And most importantly, he feels whole. It's as if you're finally on your own axis, in balance with what is and what can be. Everything I'm explaining to you here, I explain more calmly in my ebook The Power of Semen Retention. It was made for those who are starting from scratch and want to know how to apply semen retention in their daily lives in a healthy way, without crazy things or exaggerations. It is a practical guide, straight to the point. A simple example: think of a young man who has always been insecure, shy, and absent-minded. When he begins to hold back, he begins to observe himself more clearly. Over time, he realizes that this insecurity was not his own. It was the result of depleted energy, of self-esteem eroded by excessive external stimulation. He begins to speak less, but each word carries more weight. He begins to be more selective. This is not arrogance, it is discernment. And it doesn't stop there. This return to maximum potential begins to affect all areas of life. Relationships improve, productivity increases, and vision for the future expands. Because when a man is fulfilled internally, he no longer depends on the approval of others. He is guided by an internal compass that points upward. And this direction is clear, even when the path is challenging. But to continue in this direction, we need to see what is holding back this potential. And this is where society comes in as a great saboteur of male brilliance. Because it profits from empty men. From an early age, men are bombarded with subtle, and not so subtle messages that push them into a lifestyle that drains their energy. The culture of be a player, discharge your stress with porn, relax by drinking on the weekend has become normal. And anyone who questions this is called a prude or a repressed person. But what no one says is that this conditioning is robbing an entire generation of men of their life force. The entertainment industry, pornography, and even unbridled consumption were built to keep man disconnected from himself. Because a man who lives exhausted does not question, does not create, does not lead. He survives. And a man in survival mode is easily controlled. This is the dirty game that no one shows you. They taught you to sabotage yourself thinking it was freedom. They gave you poison wrapped in pleasure. Want proof? Just look at how most men live, unfocused, unclear, always looking for something to relieve themselves. But relieve what? When you start practicing semen retention, you begin to realize how much you've been conditioned to live in flight from your own greatness. That's why many men report, after weeks of withholding, a feeling of anger, confusion, or sadness. It's not a regression, it's the body detoxing from years of programming. To escape this trap, you need to re-educate your mind. Swap stimulation for reflection, distraction for purpose. Watch documentaries like The Social Dilemma Stutz, which show how we are being psychologically manipulated. And after that, replace the socially accepted vices with habits that elevate you. Withholding is not a cry of revolt, it is a silent act of sovereignty. And when you begin to free yourself from these invisible shackles, something new happens. The body begins to react. The transformation ceases to be mental and begins to appear in the physical, as if the soul were molding the outer shell. It's no exaggeration to say that your body speaks. And when you start to retain semen, it speaks loudly. Your skin starts to glow differently, as if it were more alive. Your beard grows fuller, your hair becomes stronger. But the curious thing is that you haven't changed any creams or shampoos. What has changed is the energy that circulates within you. Your outer beauty begins to reflect your inner vitality, and that's just the beginning. This transformation is not just aesthetic. It has a much deeper spiritual component. Retention awakens a sense of alignment between body and soul. You feel more present, more whole, as if you are finally occupying your own body with authority. And people notice. They can't explain it, but they notice something different. It's that deeper look, the firmer posture, the energy that fills the room. A real-life example of this is the kind of compliments that start to come your way. You look different, there's something about you that I can't explain, you seem more confident. This isn't because of a change in clothes or a new haircut, it's because you're vibrating at a different frequency. Semen retention reorganizes your energy field. It's as if the world starts to see you as a purer version of who you've always been. And what's more, this purity requires no effort. It's not something forced or rehearsed. The more you connect with your vital energy, the less you need to do to be noticed. It's the paradox of presence. You attract without seeking, you command respect without raising your voice. This is spirituality applied to real life. You become the temple and the priest at the same time, a force that inspires without needing words. Do you want to start your journey with awareness and security? Then click on the first pinned comment now, purchase the ebook and take the first step towards your transformation. It's all there, clear, objective, and made for those who truly want to evolve. But this magnetic presence comes at a price. It bothers those who live in a distracted environment. And then, the impact of its energy begins to be felt on more subtle levels, including by those who don't even understand spirituality. When a man consistently practices semen retention, something changes, and it's not just his body. It's as if a silent aura begins to surround him. He doesn't need to say much or prove anything. His mere presence already carries a magnetism that permeates the environment. Women sense this almost instinctively. It's as if a higher vibrational frequency is being emitted, and their bodies, even without realizing it, respond. This has nothing to do with looks or status. It's about energy. Retention gives you something that can't be bought or faked, energetic integrity. And women, especially the more connected ones, feel this. They can tell when a man is in control. When he doesn't need to chase you or play cheap charm. He's not hungry. He's fulfilled. And that, my friend, is rare and powerful. Want to see a practical example? An ordinary guy, without money, without a car, without ostentation, but who practices restraint and takes care of himself, enters a room and is noticed. Meanwhile, another guy with everything on paper, but empty energy goes unnoticed. The difference is in what you don't see. Energy speaks before the physical. The look, the silence, the posture, everything communicates. This is aura. And that is not faked. This aura is not only for attracting people. It also serves as a filter. Unbalanced people will move away, while people seeking evolution will come closer. You begin to notice that the world responds differently when you are centered in energy. It is as if you are on a frequency where only what is true finds you, and what is false dissolves naturally. And this dissolution brings an even deeper realization that there is something sacred being carried within you. A spirit expanding. A strength that begins to become visible even in the eyes of others. There comes a time in the semen retention journey when the changes are no longer just physical or emotional, they start to be spiritual. It's not just you who feels them. Other people start to see you differently. It's as if they see something beyond your body. A sparkle in your eyes, a calmness that can't be explained, a strength that doesn't need to be shown. Some people say, it feels like you can see your soul. And that's no exaggeration. This enhanced spiritual presence is the result of concentrated energy. When you stop dispersing yourself in momentary pleasures, you begin to cultivate something much more subtle, the inner light. And this light, unlike anything artificial, does not go out easily. It does not depend on praise, external validation, or likes. It comes from the spirit aligned with the body, from the mind serving the soul, and not the other way around. And this is rare, which is why it attracts attention. Have you ever heard of those spiritual masters who, just by being present, change the environment? Retention is a step in that direction. Of course, we are not talking about becoming a guru here, but rather about awakening a presence that transmits truth, confidence, peace. A man who carries his spirit with respect imposes a silent force. He does not need to convince anyone. He simply is. And that is impossible to ignore. Practical examples of this. Everyday situations. You enter a room and everyone is silent. Someone tells you secrets they have never shared with anyone. Strangers ask you for advice. This happens because your energy has become an anchor, a point of stability in a chaotic world. And those who live in turbulence feel this as a safe haven, even without understanding why. But this presence, this light, also requires care. Because the brighter it shines, the more it disturbs the darkness, including within you. And this brightness can even affect your sleep patterns. Few people talk about this, but when you start accumulating vital energy through semen retention, your body sometimes doesn't know what to do with so much power. The result? You lie down to sleep and sleep won't come. Your mind is racing, your body seems plugged in. It's not anxiety, it's just too much vital force circulating. And if you don't learn how to channel it, it becomes a powerful engine running in neutral. Too much noise, too little movement. This energetic insomnia is a clear sign that your system is recalibrating. Imagine putting a Lamborghini engine in a regular car. You need to adjust the brakes, suspension, and structure. The same thing happens with your body. It needs to adapt to the new energetic load. And until that happens, your sleep may be affected. But instead of despairing or going back to your old habits to relax, the ideal is to learn how to redirect this force. What works? Practices like reading at night, books with spiritual depth, like Autobiography of a Yogi or the Prophet, by Khalil Gibran, mindful stretching, journaling, or even deep breathing with a focus on the abdomen. These are simple ways to channel excess energy inward, rather than leaving it spinning in circles in your mind. Over time, the body understands the new frequency and returns to sleep peacefully, but now in a higher state of rest. It's worth remembering, this isn't a problem, it's a blessing in disguise. The energy that was once wasted is now asking to be used. Many people discover hidden creative talents during this period. They start writing, painting, and studying things that didn't make sense before. This restlessness is the call of the soul saying, "Listen to me, I'm alive inside." And when you listen, doors open. But to truly listen, you need inner silence. And this silence only comes when you start to let go of external noise. The distractions that once dominated you now begin to lose their shine. When semen retention begins, many men think they will have to force themselves to give up certain vices. But over time, the opposite happens. These distractions lose their flavor. Alcohol, for example, which used to be a weekend refuge, begins to seem like a dense substance that makes you dumb and cuts off your connection to your higher self. The same goes for recreational drugs and other modern escapes. It's as if the soul's taste buds become more refined. And it's not out of moralism, nor because someone told you to. It's because the body, now clean, rejects what intoxicates. The guy who used to use the night as an escape now prefers to wake up early and run in the park listening to a lecture by Neville Goddard or Joseph Murphy. What used to seem pleasurable now seems like a waste of time. Retention changes the criterion of pleasure. You start to feel pleasure in progress, in peace, in clarity. Want to see how this manifests itself? A man who is in this process no longer feels like going to clubs, bars, or empty circles. He prefers environments that nourish him. Meetings with purpose, spiritual retreats, silent reading, intense workouts. His presence changes because his lifestyle has changed. And this happens from the inside out, without having to force anything. Discipline becomes identity. In fact, he begins to attract people with the same pattern. Not because he is looking for them, but because his energy creates a field that repels the superficial and attracts the essential. It is as if the universe responds by saying, "You have changed, so here comes new company, new paths, new experiences." Semen retention, at this level, is a spiritual detox, and the body is grateful, the mind calms down, and the soul flourishes. But of course, leaving behind certain habits requires, in return, a new kind of inner sustenance. Something deeper. And that is when man begins to face his most silent temptations, those that come from the ego disguised as progress. The irony is cruel. A man spends 30, 60, 90 days retaining his semen, full of discipline, focus, and transformation, and then, on the day of the celebration, he falls. As if the relapse were a reward for all the effort. This is one of the ego's most subtle traps. It pretends to be on your side, saying, "Just for today, you deserve it," but in reality it is pulling you back into the cycle of slavery. And all this with a smile on its face. This type of relapse hurts more because it is not physical, it is symbolic. The man feels that he has betrayed himself, that he has thrown away what he was building. And this creates a domino effect: guilt, self-sabotage, and, often, abandonment of the practice. But the truth is that the fall does not erase progress. It only shows where there are still gaps. The solution is not to punish yourself, it is to learn. Because every man who has fallen from the top fell because he trusted his own ego too much. Want a practical way out of this trap? Never celebrate a number. Celebrate your consistency. Instead of saying, I completed 90 days, say, today, once again, I was true to myself. And on that day, take care of your energy as if it were your first. Do something that feeds your soul. Meditate, read a psalm, write in a journal. Reward the spirit, not the addiction. This simple change of focus protects more than any technique. The ego will always try to trap you in your pride. It loves a medal. But true retention is silent, almost invisible. It doesn't need fireworks or trophies. It's like the roots of a tree. They grow without anyone seeing, but they support everything up there. The most powerful discipline is the one that doesn't need to be displayed. And the further a man moves away from the need to prove himself, the more firm he becomes in his own truth. And this steadfastness will be constantly tested, because the world will try to pull you back with subtle disguises, including in the form of people who seem to be good, but slowly drain your energy. During semen retention, men develop a sensitivity that was previously dormant. They begin to better perceive their surroundings, words, gestures, and especially people. And then comes a shock. Some of the connections that seemed fun or spicy were, in fact, energy holes. Partners who live in emotional swings, friends who feed addictions, relationships that push them down, all of this begins to become clear. This realization is painful at first, because it messes with your emotions. After all, no one wants to admit that someone close to you is draining your strength. But it is necessary, because withholding expands your energy field, and with that, you begin to attract and also repel. And do you know what hurts the most? Realizing that, often, what attracts you the most is what destroys you the most. It is the pleasure that comes along with tiredness, the kiss that leaves you feeling empty afterwards. A classic example, relationships based solely on desire. As long as the body was asking for it, it seemed like everything made sense. But after weeks of holding back, the man looks and realizes, this is just dragging me down. The conversation doesn't flow, the values don't match, the person's presence only adds weight. And then he realizes that it's not about the quantity of relationships, it's about the quality of the connection. And that changes the game. With this new awareness comes the courage to say no, to walk away without guilt, to protect one's own energy like one would protect a treasure. This doesn't mean becoming a hermit, it means choosing wisely. And in this choice, the man discovers that being emotionally sober is more valuable than having toxic company. Semen retention brings clarity to see this clearly. And when this clarity is established, the inner space begins to open up to something new. Lighter people, healthier environments, relationships that nourish rather than drain, all of this begins to emerge when man stops trading in what drains his soul. After so much time immersed in intense stimuli and turbulent relationships, the man who practices semen retention begins to value something that previously seemed boring: peace. That person who arrives slowly, speaks softly, but transmits tranquility. That presence that does not demand, does not compete, does not drain you. Instead of pushing you into chaos, it anchors you. And that, my friend, is priceless. It has value. It's curious how, over time, what attracts you begins to change. The noisy charm gives way to serenity. The game of seduction becomes tired. Your preferences change. You start looking for people who bring comfortable silence instead of confusing noise. And you realize that, in fact, this was always what your spirit asked for. But your distracted body didn't let you hear it. Now, with your energy centered, the sound of your soul becomes clear. Want an example? Before, a woman who made you jealous, provoked reactions, and drove you crazy seemed irresistible. Today, you realize that this was just emotional instability disguised as passion. Now, the one who smiles calmly, who truly listens to you, who doesn't play games, that one touches something deeper. It's as if her soul speaks to yours, without needing to make any effort. This is a healthy connection. This is lived spirituality. And it's not just about romantic relationships. Friends, family, co-workers, everyone goes through this new filter. You realize who adds to it and who drains it. And most importantly, you start choosing who you allow into your frequency. This isn't arrogance. It's self-care. It's knowing that your energy isn't to be wasted on any table, on any conversation. Your presence now carries weight. And with this new circle of purer connections, a solid foundation emerges for self-esteem to flourish. You begin to truly see how much you are worth. And this activates a strength that has been dormant for years. Throughout his life, men are conditioned to seek something outside themselves to feel complete. Money, approval, women, achievements. But when he truly delves into semen retention, a simple truth begins to emerge. He is already enough. Not because he has achieved a goal, but because he has finally stopped sabotaging himself. Self-esteem does not come from outside. It flourishes when the energy that was wasted is returned to nourish the spirit. Retention has this silent power to wipe the dust off the mirror. You begin to see yourself more clearly. Old guilt fades away, comparisons to other men lose their meaning, and the need to prove something dissolves. You realize that it's enough to be who you are, with integrity and presence. This isn't complacency, it's inner power. The kind that no one gives you, and no one can take away. Practical examples of this emerge in small gestures. You say no without guilt. You look someone in the eye firmly. You take a stand without fear of displeasing them. This is not arrogance, it is the result of being full inside. And this fulfillment is different from pride. It is silent, mature, solid. It is the awareness that you have something valuable inside you, your life energy, your story, your mission. But here's the thing, this restored self-esteem doesn't put you above others, it puts you above your old self. The fragmented, addicted, distracted man begins to die. And in his place, someone is born who knows his own worth. And because he knows this, he begins to protect his own time, his own focus, his own soul more. Not to isolate himself, but to serve better. With presence. With wisdom. And at this new level of consciousness, you realize that this journey is not just about you. It is about something bigger. An invisible war that happens inside and outside, where each decision you make strengthens one side, either distraction or expansion. Anyone who thinks that semen retention is just about biology is mistaken. This is a battlefield. Every impulse you resist, every temptation you reject, every thought you observe instead of following, all of this is part of an invisible war. It is not a war with weapons, but with ideas, emotions, and conditioning. And the main battlefield is yourself. Your mind, your body, your spirit. Society has programmed men to be slaves to their own desires. Since childhood, they have been taught that being a man means having many women, freeing themselves from pleasure at any cost, and living as if there were no tomorrow. This programming is deep, subtle, and disguises itself as freedom. But in reality, it is a prison. True freedom only begins when a man takes control of his own energy and says, "I choose what strengthens me." And this choice requires strength. Because triggers arise every day. Social media, movies, conversations, memories. The modern world is a distraction factory. Pornography, for example, is not just a moral problem. It is a weapon of spiritual domination. It destroys focus, consumes energy, and disconnects you from who you are. And this is no coincidence. It is a project. Because a disconnected man does not threaten the system. An awakened man does. But it's not about fighting with hate. It's about fighting with awareness. Spiritual warfare is not won with brute force, but with constancy. Every time you say no to an addiction, you say yes to your evolution. With every temptation denied, a new vision is released. With every desire transformed, a new door opens. And then, the journey begins to make sense. You understand that you were forged in this battle to become an example, a beacon, a guide. And when you accept this calling, everything changes. Life stops being about survival and becomes a mission. But every mission needs clear direction, and that direction begins with a simple choice. Keep fighting or give up. Now tell me, after all this, are you still going to treat your energy as something disposable? Or are you finally going to honor what you carry inside of you? Semen retention is not just a challenge, it's a reconnection with who you were born to be. And if you apply what you've learned here, you'll realize that you don't need to chase anything. Things start to come to you. Because when you stop giving in to what weakens you, the universe starts to give you what truly strengthens you. So I ask you, Are you going to continue this cycle of empty pleasures, or are you going to choose to truly evolve? Are you going to continue as you are, or are you going to decide today that this is the last time you throw your energy away without awareness? The choice is yours. But know that the man who dominates himself dominates the world. And you are one step away from becoming that man. If this content caught your attention, like this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here we talk about semen retention with truth, depth, and purpose. Come with us, because the revolution starts from within. Do you want to start your journey with awareness and security? Then click on the first pinned comment now, purchase the ebook, and take the first step towards your transformation. It's all there, clear, objective, and made for those who truly want to evolve.